I've introduced myself.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. My name is Andrew.
I've set expectations.
And I am not a luthier.
I've designed. I've procrastinated.
Excellent!
I've prepared. I've had existential crises.
So many things to do. And no idea what order to do them all in.
And I've delved into technical details.
Well, the router thing going to the end of the
This is my entry into the Great Guitar Build-Off 2021 Scratch Build Competition.
Hi, my name is Andrew Goland and I am not a luthier, but I have built a guitar. Five months ago, I, along with over 400 other people, entered an international guitar building competition. In my case, this was with no actual experience other than refurbishing one guitar and watching a truckload of guitar building over the last year or two on YouTube. I've not been much of a woodworker either, other than some basic furniture builds. Sure, I can swing a drill and a saw, but nothing like the fine luthiery required to build a guitar. The extraordinary events of the last year have impacted us all to one degree or another, and for me, watching guitar builds has been a saving grace that has grounded me when I needed it most. This basis of knowledge, whilst no replacement for practical experience, led me to believe that I might just have a chance at building a guitar. If you're watching this, you're likely to have seen a few other guitar builds, so instead of describing my process, as you'll likely know what I'm doing better than me, I'll tell you my Great Guitar Build-Off story.
When the Great Guitar Build-Off was announced this year, I knew I had to be part of it, having enjoyed the first build-off. I spent January looking for a kit that I could use. I eventually found this body on Facebook Marketplace, with the intention of buying a pre-made neck to go with it. It was my 50th birthday at the end of January, and I persuaded my wife that this could be her present to me. When I opened the present, it came with a Sapele neck blank. I was also able to get some fretwork tools thanks to the generosity of the rest of my family. I also scored some abalone for inlays in a similar fashion. Design is the one part of this build where I felt most comfortable. The body I have was a good size and quite heavy, so I knew I could get away with removing quite a lot of material. I go into a lot more detail in my design video, but essentially I created a plan of the body in CAD and used that to sketch out the changes I wanted to make. I was inspired by the partial stain and heavy curves used by Steve Walker and Tafty's entries into last year's build-off, so I needed to take this plain and blocky Strat-style body, find its natural curves and accentuate these with deep, deep carves. I took those sketches and dropped them back into CAD and produced the design guide you can see here. This was a great deal of help throughout the build, as I was able to reference it constantly. I was not set up for fine woodworking, bar a few tools inherited from my late father. As you can see here, my workbench was inadequate. So, in the space of a day, I designed and built a new one with constructional timber I had lying around. In addition to this, I had to make a bench hook, a router leveling jig, install a drill press stand, and make a fret slotting jig. Very early on in the process, I attempted to make a neck template using hand tools. The resulting template was helpful in setting out the neck and headstock, but wasn't really good enough to be used for routing. The fretboard I found was Indian rosewood, and at 10mm thick, I unwisely decided I needed to thickness it with the cheapest plane I could find, and had to rectify my efforts using my leveling jig. The resulting thickness was just under 5.5mm. That would later come back to haunt me. One of the first things I decided I wanted to do was inlay the Reality Studios logo into the neck at the 12th fret. I designed this logo 5 years ago and use it in my projection mapping. It felt appropriate to include it in my design. I took a number of practice runs at the inlay and eventually cut the shape out of the fragile sheet of abalone, routed the neck and inlaid using super glue. I had a false start when gluing the fretboard to the neck and tried to use a rope as a clamping mechanism after seeing Scott from Bonehead do this with some binding. In the end, the fretboard came away and I had to remove, clean it up and try again. Thankfully, with some care and attention, I got a good result. With the fretboard trimmed to the neck, I was able to have a go at carving the neck. I did not expect that I'd enjoy this process as much as I did. When it was done, I was, and still am, very happy with the result. It's a comfortable carve that feels great to the touch. I had acquired a book-matched quilted maple headstock plate along with my fretboard from Feel Good Wood on eBay, and after jointing it, a fiddly glue up, and trimming it, it looked great in place. The last piece of the neck was the truss rod cover. I wanted this to echo the shape of the headstock and ended up spending an evening carving it into a pleasing three-dimensional shape. I started out in the kit build competition, but after consulting with the team at GGBO, I am now in the scratch build competition because I've successfully built a neck. Having spent an age working out, checking and rechecking the neck break angle, the route for this was pretty straightforward, as I had carefully made a template and I had got a good fit. The pickup cavities were similarly straightforward. The control cavity, however, was a different matter. Whilst routing this cavity, the router jumped out and put a big gouge in the back of the guitar. After consulting with the community on Instagram, I decided to cover it up with a decorative card. This started out fairly abstract, but then the muse struck and I turned it into a deer in a moonlit scene, as you can see here. I had been looking to this part of the build ever since the beginning, as this was where I was able to really place my mark upon the wood. And yes, I enjoyed this immensely, although I will need to upgrade the old Raspberry file I used. I suspect a decent saw Raspberry file would have got me through this much more quickly. With the body carves complete, I was able to focus on finishes. Originally, I was intending to use iron acetate to ebonize the back and copper acetate to stain the front. Unfortunately, with a week to go, there was no time to prepare the solutions and no time to order some proper stains. With a little YouTube surfing, I found that Indian inks and other shellac-based inks also worked well as stains. One quick visit to the local stationers and I had some Indian ink and some cobalt blue ink. The final finish was Danish oil, as I love what it does to the wood grain. Assembly took place in one day and largely went well. I had anticipated an issue relating to the angle of the headstock. At 5 degrees, this wasn't quite enough to pull the strings lower than the nut. The wiring up process has been problematic and definitely needs to be revisited, but it makes a sound and the guitar lives. So, allow me to introduce my first scratch-built guitar, the No Idea. As a first-time builder, it would be naive to expect a perfect guitar at the end of this process, and it's not perfect, but I love how it looks. I've enjoyed the process immensely, and I've enjoyed being a part of this awesome community of makers. The support and encouragement I have received has been beyond anything I expected. My thanks to Ben Crow and the team at GGBO and Crimson for creating this marvellous contest. My thanks to everyone in this community for just being awesome. I would love to name check everyone who has helped and supported me, but that is a video in and of itself. You are all an inspiration. Thank you for watching. If you feel like voting for me, I'll not complain, but there are plenty of others far more deserving than me. Plus, I already feel like I've won and I have my prize. To sign off, here's my friend John Lime, who's an actual guitarist, wrestling some sounds out of the guitar.